This is our complete preview to this weekend's Indy 500. We've got everything you need to know ahead of the event, including which drivers to look out for, the most successful drivers in the history of the Indy 500, and how all of them got on in final qualifying to set the grid for the 109th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race this weekend. So let's get into it, guys. Let's dive in with everything you need to know about this weekend's race in Indianapolis. The 109th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race is on this weekend, guys, and ahead of the event I'm going to pick out 5 drivers from this star-studded field that you should be paying special attention to. It's so hard to narrow this down to just 5, but we love doing things here in 5s on the channel, guys. So let's have a look at the 5 that I'm going to be paying special attention to during this weekend's race. And where are we going to start other than with our pole sitter? A shock pole sitter in Robert Shwartzman. If you haven't watched my qualifying review, do go check that out. That went out at the start of this week on the channel. But Prema in their debut at the Indy 500. Shwartzman making his debut on an oval, but they managed to get pole position. Unbelievable stuff. Honestly, if Shwartzman even manages a top 5 from there, he's done an absolutely stellar job this week. But of course, he'll be wanting to take the grand prize. Why not? A rookie has not sat on pole in over 40 years. When was the last time that a rookie managed to win the Indy 500? I'm willing to bet it's been a very long time since that's happened, if it's ever happened, in fact, over the years. I mean, Nigel Mansell came close in the 90s, but he didn't quite manage it, so I'm struggling to think who was the actual guy who did that last, to be fair. So answers in the comments, please, for that one, guys. But yeah, Shwartzman, best of luck. It's going to be very difficult, but he's starting from the best possible position, and what a debut it's been for Prema at the Indy 500. Of course, a new team for this season, but my goodness me, have they made a mark on the sport's history already. But very much not his first appearance at the Indy 500 is Takuma Sato. Now, he did a fantastic job during qualifying to get on the front row, get second place overall. He's very much someone who's going to be a danger tomorrow. He could join an elite group of drivers to win 3 times around the Indy 500. He's almost 50 years of age. The man had a horrible crash in practice as well earlier this month. So the fact that he's got up, picked himself up from that, dusted himself off, Taku is going to be one of the favourites in my opinion. Of course, Shwartzman has the best possible starting position, but Sato being up there with his experience, I would not rule out him leading the first lap at all. Alex Palou, though, he's a guy who's going to do very well to lead the first lap, but he's not someone who's out of contention either. He's been having a GOAT season, one of the greatest of all time seasons ever in the history of the IndyCar, and of course the American Open Wheel Championship. I think you have to go back to the days of AJ Foyt to find someone who has been that dominant at the start of the season. But of course, the elephant in the room, the oval-shaped elephant, you should really say with this one, is the fact that he's never won around an oval. He's never managed to win around an oval, but he's never had to. He's a 3-time champion in IndyCar despite never managing to win at an oval. But he's starting from a fairly good P6. He's on the second row of the grid, got through to the fast 6 during qualifying, so he's looking quick. Not quite on winning pace, of course, but he's up there for sure, and he's someone who I think is probably going to get a top 5. A top 5 is a fantastic result for him. It really does limit the damage that any of his championship contenders can do at that point. And the likes of Shwartzman and Sato, they're miles off. They're never going to challenge Palou for the championship realistically. So let's see how he gets on. I'm optimistic. I think he'll get a good result, but I think a win is probably a bit too much to ask around Indy. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway, of course, chooses who wins the race. You don't decide that. The track does, of course, famously. Those famous bends around the Brickyard. But let's talk about Joseph Newgarden, another 2-time winner, winning the previous 2 Indy 500s on the bounce, but he's going to have a very, very tough drive on Sunday to be able to do it. He will, of course, start pretty much at the back, dead last alongside Will Power, because both of them were thrown out of qualifying for technical infringements. Of course, their pace was good enough to make the fast 12, but unfortunately for them, like I said, the technical infringement disqualified them from that. They do make the grid. They will take part in this race, but they will start from the very back. But of course, that doesn't mean anything, you know. When you're going to win the Indy 500 again, the track chooses you to do so, and if they are destined to win, if Newgarden is to win the race for the 3rd time in a row, has anybody ever managed that before? 3 Indy 500 wins on the bounce? Again, probably been a very long time since that happened. I'm pretty sure it hasn't happened. I did go through the most wins at the Indy 500 in history, and I'm pretty sure none of those dudes have managed 3 in a row, so Newgarden could very much make history by being able to do that, but he's going to have a lot of work to do on Sunday afternoon in Indiana. And the last driver I'm looking out for, not least because he's going to be taking part in this race, but also be taking part in the Coke 600. It's, of course, our double duty hopeful. It is Kyle Larson, a regular in the NASCAR Cup Series. He's attempting double duty again this weekend. He tried it last year, but the rain interrupted him both at Indiana and also in Charlotte down at North Carolina for the Coke 600 later on in the day. I'll be bringing out a preview for the Coke 600. Larson will be previewed in that as well, because of course the fact he's doing 1,100 miles of racing in less than 24 hours is something absolutely mesmeric. I hope he does well, and let's see if he can become the first driver since Tony Stewart Smoke back in 2001 to successfully do the Indy 500 and of course the Charlotte Motor Speedway Coke 600 and finish on the lead lap. He's the only guy to ever do that, Tony Stewart. Kyle Larson is without a doubt talented enough to do that, but we'll see how he gets on. He'll need some good luck from the weather, of course. But yeah, those are the 5 drivers I'm looking forward to seeing the most this weekend around the Indy 500. Who is your pick for the winner, guys? I'm not going to say. I'd love to see Sato do it personally. I think that'd be an incredible story. Him and Newgarden, that'd be unbelievable if they managed to do it. But we will see what happens. Same with Schwartzman as well, for that matter, of course, too. We'll see what happens, of course, with this weekend's running, and we'll bring you here all the reviews and action from this over the weekend. Have a great Memorial Bank Holiday weekend if you are celebrating in the States, and if you're watching this race, let's hope for an entertaining one. The Indy 500 is on this weekend, guys, and ahead of the event, I wanted to have a look at qualifying, which took place this weekend just gone, and oh boy, have we had some unbelievable results from this. We had a pole sitter for here that was just, we never saw this coming. Never in a million years. This is a historic pole position for the guy who got it. But let's have a look at the other stories. The 5 things that we learned from Indianapolis 500 qualifying this weekend. So let us start with drama before we even got into the final part of qualifying. So for those that don't know, the Fast 12, the final 12 qualifiers, the fastest 12 go into a final group, and then they are whittled down to the final 6 drivers to contest pole position. And before we even got to the Fast 12, 3 drivers were unable to take part in this. The first of these was Scott McLaughlin, who unfortunately crashed out very heavily in practice, and he and his car were not ready to take part. On top of that as well, we had Joseph Newgarden and Will Power also unable to take part as well, as their cars failed scrutineering after the previous qualifying session. So we only had 9 drivers taking part in what is normally a 12-car session. Still, only 6 of them advanced through to the final part of qualifying. Now, when we got into the final part of qualifying, the final 6, we had Alex Palou there, but he only just made it through, and he ended up qualifying in 6th place. Now, this is despite him, of course, having an incredibly dominant IndyCar season so far, but of course he's not very good around ovals, at least not as good around ovals as what he is around the road courses, where he's won all but 1 race and finished 2nd so far this season in all the rounds we've seen so far in 2025. He will start 6th, which is a decent spot to actually start him, but I think asking him to win this race this weekend is going to be very difficult. He's never won around an oval before. It's not his thing really when it comes to IndyCar, but I expect him still to probably be in the top 5 at least come race day on Sunday. But let's talk about Takuma Sato. Sato himself had a really big crash earlier on in practice. This is, of course, a whole month of May that goes on for IndyCar. Of course, it's a very long event. A few weeks ago, Sato had a really, really bad crash. Thankfully, okay. I mean, the guy's almost 50 years old now, and here he is competing in the Indy 500, and he starts in P2. It's on the outside. He's on the front row effectively, which is fantastic for him. I'm so happy to see him up there. It could have been pole position. He was holding provisional pole position for quite some time. But yeah, really solid effort from Taku to get through, not only into the top 6, but also get into 2nd place. And as well, he is a previous winner of this event. What was it, 2020? Something like that. It wasn't that long ago. So you never know. Stranger things have happened. He very much has the experience there. But let's talk about the other guys that were also in the Fast 6. Let's just round out the actual order without mentioning the pole position man, who I will mention with the final thing here. But Pato O'Ward, he had a very good day. He was up in P3. Scott Dixon in 4th place, and Felix Rosenqvist, the final guy to set a lap during the final 6 qualifying, the Super 6 qualifying, I'm going to call them. The Fast 6, really, that's what they're officially known as. But I can call them a Super 6 if I want as well. But yeah, he was in P5. But who got pole position? Who was the last guy? Who was it? None other than Robert Schwartzman. Competing in his first ever Indy 500, he becomes the first rookie in 43 years, the first guy since 1982 to qualify on pole position as a rookie for the Indianapolis 500-mile race. absolutely unbelievable. The scenes when the guy had his pole position confirmed were absolutely incredible. And Prema as well in IndyCar. They're a new team in IndyCar and they've got pole position. Whether they'll be able to see it out during the race, I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm very much looking forward to finding out this weekend. It's a huge weekend of motorsport. Indy 500, Coke 600, Monaco Grand Prix. It's going to be absolutely incredible. And we'll be here to cover it all on the channel, guys. The Indy 500 is on this weekend, guys, and let's have a look at the most successful drivers from one of the most prestigious, one of the most incredible races of the year. The Indy 500 makes up one of the 3 points of the Triple Caravan of Motorsport, alongside the Monaco Grand Prix in Formula 1 and the 24 Hours of Le Mans in endurance racing. But which drivers have sipped the milk the most, that drank that famous milk after the Indy 500 has been completed and lifted that world famous trophy? Well, let's dive into this. Let's have a look at the guys who, of course, have won this event more than anybody else and gone to that famous victory lane at the Brickyard. So there are 4 drivers that have won this event 4 times. So I'm going to quickly go through all the people who have won it 3 times in the past. These include Louis Meyer, who won it in 1928, 33 and 36. Meyer, interestingly, the first guy to sip the milk after the race was completed, after winning in 1936. Wilbur Shaw won it in 37, 39 and 1940. Maury Rose won it in 41, 47 and 48. Now getting closer to the modern era, we have Johnny Rutherford, who won it 3 times in 1974, 76 and 1980. Bobby Unser managed it in 68, 75 and 1981. And a more familiar face to younger fans of IndyCar, Dario Franchitti is still the most recent person to have achieved 3 victories at the Indy 500, winning in 2007, 2010 and 2012 as well. But which are the drivers who have won it 4 times? Well, the most recent guy to, of course, have done this is Helio Castroneves. Helio is the only driver who is a non-American to have won this race 4 times. He, of course, won his first 2 Indy 500s in back-to-back years in 2001 and 2002. He then backed it up with a 3rd victory in 2009. And of course, won not that long ago, actually, in fairness, in 2021 as well. Like I said, the Brazilian driver is the only guy in this top 4 that is not American. But who else has won the race 4 times? Well, Rick Mears won it 4 times in the 1970s, 80s and 1990s. He won it in 79, 84, 88 and 1991. Al Unser, he is also a 4-time winner of the event, winning in 1970, 71, 78 and 1987. And who was the first to achieve this? Who was the first to achieve 4 victories at the Indy 500? Well, it was none other than AJ Foyt, who managed it in 1961, 64, 67 and 1977 as well. As all absolute legends of American open wheel racing. Some names that you should really recognize there if you're into your motorsport history, but if you don't, go and do some research, go and learn about the history of the event some more. We've got plenty of videos in the build up to the Indy 500, but yeah, that's just a quick rundown who has won it the most of all time. Can Joseph Newgarden join that list of 3-time Indy 500 winners? Well, of course, he's the defending 2-time winner here, of course, winning in 23 and 24. So he is the most likely, you would say, to be able to join them. But we'll see how things go there. Of course, another driver who is very close to the front of the grid, qualifying in 2nd place, is Takuma Sato. He has won this event twice as well, 2017 and 2020. But those are the only guys really that have a realistic chance of joining that 3-time winner club anytime soon. But yeah, your picks in the comments below, who is going to win the event this week and who's going to win the Indy 500. I want to hear what you have to say, guys. One of the unique traditions of the Indianapolis 500 miles race is that the winner traditionally drinks milk after winning. Normally in motorsport, you spray the champagne, but instead the Indy 500 winner typically drinks the milk. Why is this? How did this get started, and how has this tradition evolved over the decades? Well, I've got the answer to all of those questions in this video, guys, so stay tuned for everything you need to know about drinking the milk after winning the Indy 500. So the first IndyCar driver to so-called drink the milk was Louis Meyer, who won the Indy 500 on 3 occasions back in the 1930s. After clinching his 3rd victory at Indianapolis in 1936, he reached for a bottle of buttermilk, a habit that he picked up from his mother, which he was told was good to cool off during hot weather, which we typically see at this time of year. year in that part of the world. Honestly, I don't blame him. This is very hot this time of year in Indy, of course, and he basically just wanted to get rehydrated, so he went for the buttermilk. The next day, a photo appeared in the newspaper of him mid-sip, and a dairy executive pounced on this marketing opportunity. They went to the IMS organisers on making milk the official victory drink, and an idea that has stuck ever since. Between 1947 and 1955, three-time winner of the Indy 500, Wilbur Shaw, interrupted the custom though, pushing for water from Wilbur instead. However, after Shaw passed away in 1954 during a plane crash, the dairy industry swooped back in to take the opportunity. By 1956, milk was firmly reinstated as the winning drink in Victory Lane. And the winners actually received a $400 bonus, which is over $4,000 in today's money if they chose to drink milk. Personally, I'd go for it. That's a lot of money to sip a pint of milk. And ever since then, the winner of the Indy 500 has drank milk pretty much every year, with one very notable exception. And you guys that know your motorsport history will already know this. Emerson Fittipaldi, the Brazilian driver, won the event in 1993. However, instead of going for milk, he went for some OJ, some orange juice instead. And believe it or not, the crowd actually booed him. All 400,000 who were there on that day did not appreciate breaking this long-held tradition. Emo probably didn't realise why the crowd was booing, but the team owner Roger Penske gave him a nudge and said, hey, you should probably go for that milk now. And he did, but unfortunately, that very much did not endear him to the local fans. And since then, nobody has been brave enough or wanted to actually go for something other than the traditional milk. Now, of course, these days there are different options when it comes to going for the milk. It's not just the whole milk that is available. There's also other options too. Drivers can go for the 2% variant or the skimmed. And indeed, in recent times, there's now a fourth option as well. Drivers can actually go lactose free if they so choose. But the majority of drivers still go for the whole milk option, which isn't a surprise because, let's be honest, guys, it just tastes the best. But I'll let you debate that in the comments below. But yeah, there you go, guys. Basically, it's been around for coming up to 100 years, just up under 90 years now since the first time it happened. And it's a tradition that has pretty much stuck ever since, with a few water and orange juice exceptions thrown in there. But yeah, did you know that, guys? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. The most famous race in America, the most famous race potentially in the world as well, is the Indy 500. 500 miles of the famous Indianapolis Motor Speedway is set to get underway this weekend in Indiana. But when is this race going to start? What time can you actually tune in from? Well, if you know anything about the Indy 500, you'll know the build up to this is absolutely massive. We have a whole month of it, the whole month of May. We had the Indianapolis Grand Prix, the road course event for the IndyCar Series taking place earlier this month in May. We had qualifying being run this weekend as well. I've got a little review for qualifying that's already out on the channel around the same time as what this will be going out as well. But the race itself actually gets underway this weekend. But what time specifically should you be tuning in for? I mean, obviously, there will be a whole coverage of events and everything in the build-up, so it lasts for hours. Like I said, it's the whole month of May. But there will be a whole load of build-up on the day itself. It's taking place on Sunday, May 25th, which is Memorial Day weekend. So you guys in the States have the Monday off. We in the UK actually have the Monday off as well, but for very different reasons. So go have a barbecue, have some drinks, spend some time with the family. If you're going to the event as well, of course, I'm sure you'll be very much enjoying the whole weekend of running. But what time does the event actually start at? So the local time zone in Indianapolis is the one for the state of Indiana, which is the Eastern time. So the local time when this will kick off is the same for anywhere on the eastern seaboard of the United States. That will be at 12:45 p.m. local time. If you're on the central time zone, take away an hour. That is 11:45 a.m. If you're on the mountain time zone, take an hour away from that. That is 10:45 a.m. And if you're on the west coast on the Pacific time zone, that is 9:45 a.m. There are some other time zones in the US, of course. Let's not forget about Alaska, which is 8:45 a.m. and Hawaii, which is 6:45 a.m. in the morning. If you're here in the UK like me, it'll start at 5:45 p.m. in the evening, which is very handy given that the Monaco Grand Prix is on before. And And of course, after this event, we also have the Coke 600 around the Charlotte Motor Speedway, something that Kyle Larson will be hoping to attend right after completing the Indy 500. Like I said, the qualifying has already took place on this past weekend, so you don't need to worry about that. I do recommend tuning in before the race actually starts, getting the build-up. You get some interviews with the drivers, the whole historical coverage and everything. It's a really, really special event, is the Indianapolis 500. It's a little bit like the FA Cup football final here in the UK. It's something that just lasts the whole day, and it's something that's a whole day event, and it's absolutely brilliant. That can definitely apply to the Indy 500. But yeah, guys, let us know, where are you tuning in from around the world? This video is going out around the world, so do let us know where you're tuning in for. Who's your pick for the victory? Will Alex Palou finally get a win on what is considered an oval in IndyCar, or will it be somebody else? Will it be the pole setter who got pole? Well, go check out a qualifying review to find out who's claimed pole position for the Indy 500. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you want to see more like this, and check out the full article over on the motorsportreports.com, which can go into far more detail than what I can during this video here for you guys. Double duty, however you want to pronounce it, that is something that is very much on the lips of both IndyCar and NASCAR fans this weekend, as we have the Indianapolis 500 and also the Coca-Cola 600 taking place around the Charlotte Motor Speedway. But what is double duty? Why do these drivers want to try it, and what is the history of attempting this? Well, it is not easy to do. It is very difficult, and only one driver has actually managed to complete all 1,100 miles of both events in the same day. I will give you the history of the event and everything you need to know about who is attempting it this year in 2025. So double duty basically refers to attempting to do both the Indy 500 in IndyCar and also the Coke 600 around the Charlotte Motor Speedway in North Carolina in the same day. Both of these events take place on Memorial Weekend's Sunday, so it is in theory possible to be able to do that, because the Indy 500 usually finishes a couple hours before the Coke 600 gets underway. But that's not always the case. And of course, on top of that, let's just realize here, you are driving in the top level of open wheel American racing and also in stock car racing on the same day. You are having to get a private jet after the Indy 500 finishes to try and start the Coke 600, and you can't have any major delays in the Indy 500. And indeed, a certain Kyle Larson did find that out last year. Of course, there was a rain delay to the start of the Indy 500, and when it did get underway, it was too late for him to get to the Charlotte Motor Speedway in time. Ironically, the race there was also delayed in Charlotte because of the weather, but because it was so late by the time the weather got there, even though Larson got there and was ready to hop into the car, unfortunately the race was cut short and he was unable to take part in the Charlotte race. Now, back in the day, these races used to actually be scheduled on different days, so it used to be easier to do, although still it is a massive effort, and only one driver in the history of double duty has managed to do it and complete the entire distance. That is, of course, Tony Stewart, who managed to do it in 2001. He's the only guy to finish on the lead lap of both the Indy 500 and the Coke 600 on the same day. It is extremely hard to do, even with faster planes, even with faster cars as well these days for the most part. It is something that is extremely difficult to do because the discipline of driving around on a NASCAR stock car and an Indianapolis Indy car is very, very difficult indeed. It is not for the faint of heart, but Kyle Larson is attempting to do it again this weekend, and I hope for his sake that the weather stays away, the rain stays away, because otherwise that basically ends any chance that he's got of it. It could rain at Charlotte and have a delay there, but if you've got a delay with the Indy 500 because of the distance between the two, it is very, very tough to pull off. You can be the fastest driver in the world, but actually trying to beat Mother Nature is something that nobody will manage to do, unfortunately. When the dark clouds gather, it is a very difficult thing to manage to pull off. And indeed, the last guy to actually do it successfully was Kurt Busch back in 2014. He finished 6th overall in the Indy 500, but then finished 40th overall in the Coke 600, so he was very much not on the leading lap by the end of that race. But yeah, there you go, guys. That's what double duty is in motorsport. Do you think Kyle Larson will be able to do it this year? Well, I personally think it just depends on the weather. Although finishing on the lead lap of the Indy 500 for a guy who's normally in NASCAR, it's going to be tough. It's not out of the realms of possibility. He's a very, very talented driver. I don't know if you've heard, but being able to do that is superhuman. But if anybody can, it's him. Your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Like, share, comment, subscribe. As always, and a fantastic day wherever you are in the world today, guys. We'll see you very soon.